They cut the mic, played a video of me clucking like a chicken, laughed while I stood alone on stage, but I sang anyway. I'm Ellen. I used to be the punchline, until I made silence unforgettable. My sister erased me from every photo, every memory, like I was never part of this family. But the world didn't forget. My hands, my art, and my voice made it all the way to the National Gallery. Have you ever been treated like a ghost in your own story? What would you do if someone tried to erase your existence? Drop a comment. I want to hear from the ones who were counted out, who showed up anyway. Let me take you back to where it all started. They didn't expect me to show up. I didn't expect to stay. The hallway narrowed the moment I stepped in. It always did, like the walls leaned in to watch me fold into myself. My boots scuffed against the linoleum, same ones from freshman year, worn smooth at the heel. No one looked directly at me, not really. They looked through me, except for when they wanted a laugh. I was halfway to my locker when I heard it. "Yo, chicken girl! You rehearsing your clucks yet?" Laughter. Quick, snorted, not even clever. I didn't respond. I hadn't responded for weeks. Not since I saw my name, no, the mockery of it, printed across the sign-up sheet for the end-of-year showcase. K. Goofy Drake, solo vocal, closing act. Someone even doodled a little chicken holding a mic next to it. Glitter marker. Very cute. Of course it was Savannah, my sister. My mirror, but shinier, louder, filtered. She'd signed me up under the guise of just a prank, told everyone I'd chicken out. That was the joke. She didn't expect me to stand there and take the mic. She didn't expect me to stand at all. That morning, I found another surprise waiting. The printed programs were stacked on every homeroom desk. Laminated, spiral-bound like it was a real production. The kind of thing people take photos of and archive like high school mattered that much. Taylor, loud, over-accessorized, snatched a copy and flipped it open, then grinned. "Still got that sense of humor, Drake? That's brave." She tossed it on my desk. There it was again. Goofy Chicken Song by K. Scarbo Drake. Not even my name. Scarbo, like a bad pun on Scarborough Fair. I folded the program slowly. No reaction. I'd learned that from Savannah. Performance mattered more than truth. So I gave them a blank face and tucked the paper into my backpack. Mrs. Carver walked in late, coffee in hand, saw the smirks, the snickering, said nothing. A boy 2 rows back, Julius maybe, murmured, "That's kinda messed up." Carver shrugged. "It's just a joke. Don't take everything so personally." That was the moment. Not when they laughed. Not when they called me chicken. That shrug, that permission, was when I knew. I wasn't going to scratch my name off that list. I was going to take the stage. No microphone, no band, no lights. Just me. After school, I walked home the long way. Through the neighborhood behind campus, past the empty baseball field and the fenced-off park. Our house sat at the end of Maplewood Lane, all shutters and expectations. Inside, the kitchen hummed with Savannah's voice. She was retelling a story to Mom, something about spilling soda on a coach. Mom laughed too loud. She always did around Savannah. No one asked how my day was. I didn't offer. I excused myself quietly and climbed the stairs. My room still smelled like lavender and pencil shavings. I sat at my desk, pulled out the laminated program, and stared at the words again. "You want a chicken? Fine. I'll give you a phoenix." I opened my notebook and wrote the date across the top. Then, beneath it, she tried to erase me with a punchline. I'll answer with silence so loud they'll never forget it. Later that evening, I waited until the lights in the living room dimmed and Savannah was gone. I reheated some leftover peas, sat alone at the table, and ate without looking up once. The family photo hanging on the wall stared back at me, hollow. It was the new version. The one Savannah posted online last month. The same one where I had been replaced by a vase of sunflowers. No one thought I'd notice. I didn't say a word. Just finished my food, rinsed my plate, and wiped the crumbs off the table. My movements were deliberate, quiet, like I was cleaning a crime scene no one else saw. Upstairs, I pulled open my closet. The old photo of us, the original, was tucked into the back of a sketch pad. I taped it inside the closet door directly across from my bed. Then I sat down cross-legged on the floor and turned on the old cassette. Mom's voice floated out, grainy with age. "I know the world feels loud, baby girl. But I hear you." I closed my eyes, let her voice wash over the ache. I didn't cry because I was scared. I cried because I'd spent so long pretending I wasn't hurt that I forgot what being real felt like. When I woke the next morning, it was still dark. The hallway buzzed with janitor carts and vending machines coughing back bottles. I moved like I had a map no one else could see. Near the vending machine, the alternate sign-up sheet was still taped to the wall. I took a deep breath and scrawled my name. Ellen Drake. A cappella. No mic. I didn't need to ask permission. I didn't need a spotlight. I just needed them to listen. And this time, I wasn't going to ask twice. I used to live on the bottom shelf of the family photo wall, second frame from the left. I remember it well because I'd always pass it coming down the stairs, sometimes brushing my fingers along the glass without even thinking. It was a picture from my 10th birthday. Me with frosting on my nose, holding a handmade card, squished between Mom and Savannah. It wasn't there anymore. At first, I thought maybe it had fallen, or cracked. I told myself they'd moved it to fix something, but when I started really looking, the pattern was clear. Every photo that once had me in it had been either taken down or replaced. One had a shot of Savannah at the science fair where I remembered standing right beside her. Another, from our beach trip, where I'd been between Mom and Dad, now cropped just shy of my shoulder. There was one where I hadn't even been removed, just covered with a pressed flower glued over my face like I'd been an afterthought. Savannah caught me staring at the wall as she bounded down the stairs, twirling a water bottle like it was a baton. "Mom wanted a cleaner aesthetic," she said, like that explained anything. The old ones were kind of cluttered. I didn't answer. I didn't blink. I just kept looking at the gap where I used to be. Mom walked past us a minute later, carrying her work bag, too busy for eye contact. "Savannah, don't forget to upload the new album to the family drive," she said. "And can one of you take the old stuff to the garage?" Old stuff. That night, I opened the family Google album on my laptop. The 2020 to 2022 folder was still there, but everything before that had been renamed, archived. Inside, photo after photo blurred or cropped me out. My face replaced with the backs of heads, my body snipped like an editing error. And in the center of the cover grid, a new photo shined. Just Mom and Savannah, matching dresses, same wave in their hair. Caption: The Drakes. Forever. I printed the oldest one I could find, the original 10th birthday shot. I taped it inside my sketchbook, behind the last page. I stared at it for a long time. Then, slowly, I began to draw. Not the cake or the party hats, but my own face. Every pencil stroke was like reclaiming space no one thought I'd miss. The next morning, I found Savannah in the kitchen, filming a story. She was holding a mug with a motivational quote and showing off a tray of cookies she hadn't baked. "Homemade, sorta. Love the vibes." She winked into the camera. In the background, you could see the living room wall. Pristine, symmetrical, completely aesthetic. And not a single trace of me. When the camera was off, I finally asked, "Why'd you take me out of the pictures?" She didn't even pretend to be confused. "Because, Ellen, no one wants to remember awkward. You were always kind of off-brand. Not in a bad way. she added, like that would soften the cut. Mom didn't intervene. She just said, "It's not personal, sweetheart. It's just that some images don't match the direction we're going in. Have you ever discovered that the people who raised you were also the first to erase you? The kind of silence that isn't innocent, but chosen. If your family ever made you feel like a photo that didn't belong, leave a comment number 7 below. Now let's see what I do next to reclaim my space." I walked upstairs, pulled out my notebook, and turned to the back. The penciled face I'd drawn was softer than I remembered. Younger, but still there. I opened a new page and wrote, "They erased me because I didn't fit the story they wanted. So I'll write a new one." That afternoon, I stayed late in the art room. It was quiet, dim, and smelled faintly of glue sticks and dust. I didn't ask permission. I just set my sketch pad down, turned to the blank page, and began sketching a new portrait. Not of me this time, but of Mom. The way she looked when she was grading papers late at night. Her eyes tired but warm. The version of her that used to brush my hair before school and call me Moonlight. I didn't notice someone standing behind me until I heard a quiet breath. "That's your mom?" I turned. Ms. Renner, art teacher, usually distant, always paint-stained, was watching me. Her tone was different. Not amused, not skeptical, just curious. I nodded. She stepped closer, studying the shading around the eyes. "You drew this from memory?" Another nod. "You're not in any of the art submissions for the regional showcase," she said, half to herself. I shrugged. "Wasn't invited." She didn't reply right away. Just took out her phone, snapped a photo of the drawing without asking, and murmured, "You are now." I thought she was joking. She wasn't. Later that evening, I found a printed flyer slipped into my locker. Call for submissions, Georgia Youth Portrait Showcase. Submission deadline, Friday. The corner of the paper had a tiny handwritten note in red ink. "If they won't hang you on the wall, we'll hang your work instead." I smiled for the first time in what felt like months. That night, I didn't bother eating dinner with the others. Savannah was FaceTiming someone about hair dye and nail stickers. Mom was grading again. Dad wasn't home. No one noticed I stayed in my room. I taped the printed flyer next to the photo in my notebook. Below it, I wrote, "You can cut me from the frame, but I'll redraw the whole scene." And I meant it. The thing about being a joke is that people don't expect you to be listening. But I was. I always was. Especially when they laughed. Especially when they assumed I wouldn't last. The video had gone school-wide by Monday. My face, mid-note, mid-blink, mid-breath, frozen and pasted onto a cartoon chicken dancing to circus music. They looped in sound effects, clucks, kazoo fanfare, some honking noise that made me sound like I was choking. I didn't know who edited it. I didn't ask. What mattered was that the hallway screens were running it on loop. Some kids even made it their phone wallpaper. By the time I got to my locker, someone had slipped a sticky note onto the vent. "Cluck louder next time." I peeled it off and threw it away without blinking. I wouldn't give them the show they wanted. By lunch, even the teachers knew. I passed Coach Haney near the gym, and he said, half laughing, "Takes guts to lean into comedy, kid. Good on ya." I stared at him so long he stopped chewing and looked away. Later, in the library, I found a quiet table by the window and tried to sketch. The pencil felt heavy. The lines came out crooked. I pressed too hard, tore the page, started again. Even the paper was tired of me. Then I heard her. "You gonna draw yourself out of this one?" Savannah stood just behind me, sipping some iced thing in a glitter cup, holding her phone like it was another limb. I didn't answer. I didn't give her the satisfaction. She leaned in. "You could just drop out. No one would blame you. Wouldn't be the first time someone backed out of the spotlight." She smiled, slow and sugary, like she thought she was doing me a favor. Then she walked away before I could say a word. Ms. Renner appeared not long after. She must have read something in my face because she didn't greet me like usual. Just slid into the seat across from me and placed a manila folder on the table. "Regional showcase," she said. "I submitted your portrait of your mom. They loved it. But they want a second piece. Something newer. Something that's you." I looked at her like she'd spoken another language. "You want a self-portrait?" She nodded. "From now. Not memory. Not metaphor. You." That night, I sat at my desk, surrounded by crumpled paper and ghosts. I tried to draw my face the way others saw it. Sharp angles, quiet eyes, something always tucked too far inward, but nothing landed. I didn't know how to draw someone I'd spent so long hiding from. Eventually, I stopped sketching and just stared at the blank page. Then I wrote a single sentence across the bottom. "This is what forgetting yourself looks like." The next morning, something changed. It started with a whisper near the art room, then a buzz near the student lounge. By third period, someone had printed a blurry photo of my sketch, one from weeks ago, the soft pencil drawing of Mom, and taped it to the side of the library book return. Underneath, someone had scrawled in thick black Sharpie, "She draws better than they ever saw her." No name, no credit. But everyone knew. By lunch, it was on the school's anonymous feed. By last bell, the post had been reshared over 300 times. I walked through the hallway like it wasn't mine. Like the floor didn't quite hold me. People didn't laugh this time. They looked. Some even nodded. By the time I got to my locker, there was another note. This one printed neatly, folded in thirds. "Keep going." No smiley face. Just that. After school, I went back to the art room. Ms. Renner was waiting by the drying racks, arms crossed like she already knew what I was going to ask. "They picked your piece," she said before I could speak. "The one of your mom. And they want your new one too." I blinked. "They picked me?" She nodded. "They picked you, Ellen. Not the version Savannah pretends you are. Not some sister of the shiny girl. You." I swallowed hard. The words didn't come, so I let the silence speak for me. When I got home, Savannah was sprawled on the couch watching some beauty influencer unbox face masks. I stood in the doorway long enough for her to notice. "I got in," I said. She looked up. "Got into what?" "The showcase. Regional. My portrait's going to Atlanta." She stared at me for a second, then smiled that plastic smile. "That's cute." I waited. She went back to her phone. Mom didn't look up from grading. I turned, walked upstairs, and shut my door gently. In my room, I taped the official letter beside my closet. Under it, I wrote, "You didn't see me coming, but I'm already here." And for the first time in forever, I believed it. It started before the mic even failed, the kind of buzz that didn't come from the equipment, but from the crowd. Quiet snickers, whispered bets, that waiting to pounce kind of tension that lives just under the surface in high school auditoriums. I stood backstage clutching my notebook like it could anchor me, like the pages inside would remember the lines even if I forgot how to breathe. Someone from the tech crew handed me a wireless mic with a smirk. "Might be acting up," he said, not sorry at all. "Thanks," I replied, keeping my voice even. The program director announced my name. Just my name. No intro, no title, no applause, not even polite. Spotlight on. Blinding. I stepped forward, trying not to squint. My palms were damp, but I held the mic steady. I could do this. I was ready. I opened my mouth. Screech. The mic shrieked like metal being torn in half, then cut to silence. And then, the laughter. Not the kind you brush off, the kind that builds and stacks and becomes a wave. I looked toward the tech booth. One of the AV kids shrugged, both hands lifted like, What can you do? The screen behind me lit up. It wasn't supposed to. At first I thought it was a mistake. Maybe a teacher's slide still up. But then I saw it. Footage from days ago. Me, sitting alone on the bleachers outside the gym, humming softly. Someone had recorded it, added clucking noises, cartoon chickens dancing. The words, "Brave chicken live," appeared in Comic Sans, surrounded by glittering stars. The auditorium howled. In the front row, Savannah didn't even flinch. She tilted her head slightly, like admiring her own masterpiece. She didn't need to laugh. Her silence was enough. Someone in the third row clucked, "Go on, chicken girl, sing!" Another voice called, and a wave of mocking claps followed. I didn't move, not for a full breath, not until I could hear my own pulse again. Then I set the mic down, carefully, like it was a fragile thing I no longer owed anything to. I stepped forward to the edge of the stage, pulled my notebook from my jacket, flipped to the page with the lyrics my mother once whispered to me on nights I couldn't sleep. Have you ever stood at the edge of humiliation and chosen courage anyway? That breathless moment when you decide to reclaim the story meant to shame you. If you've ever refused to be broken, leave a comment number 9 below. Now, watch how I turn silence into power. No mic, no track, no lights, just me. Are you going to Scarborough Fair? The first line trembled. My voice felt like glass underfoot, sharp, risky. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. It steadied. The screen behind me flickered off. The room didn't laugh. Not anymore. Somewhere, in the 5th row, someone hushed their friend. Another dropped their phone into their lap, suddenly quiet. I didn't look at anyone, didn't need to. I let the verses carry me, one line into the next, like braiding something invisible. The acoustics of the auditorium weren't perfect, but they didn't have to be. The point wasn't volume, it was presence. And for once, I filled the space without apology. When I reached the final line, "Then she shall be a true love of mine," I didn't bow. I didn't wait for applause. I closed the notebook and walked off stage. Behind the curtain, the murmur returned. Someone said, "Was that real?" Another voice muttered, "She just did that." I passed the AV table. One of the techs reached out. "Sorry about," he began, but I kept walking. The hallway was colder than the stage. My footsteps echoed off the tile, the only sound in the stretch between wings. I didn't go to the green room. I didn't look for anyone. I stepped outside into the crisp air, let it hit my lungs like a warning and a promise. For the first time in weeks, I exhaled and meant it. At home, the lights were low. Savannah was on FaceTime, gesturing wildly with painted nails, bragging about someone's outfit flopping on stage. She didn't mention mine. I passed her without a word. Upstairs, I pulled the folded program from my backpack. The one with my name misspelled and the cartoon chicken sketched in the corner. I taped it next to my mom's cassette tape on the wall. Then I picked up my pen and wrote directly beneath it. They took away the sound. So I gave them the silence they'll never forget. I stepped back, stared at the words. They didn't look brave, but they looked like mine. Later that night, I sat beside my window with my knees to my chest. The moon was low and yellow, like something shy. I hummed the melody again, this time quietly. No pressure, no eyes. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was trying to prove anything. I just felt like I'd begun. The silence didn't last long. By Monday morning, the video had made its way from the backstage shadows to the school-wide group chat. Not the chicken clip, the other one, the real one. Grainy, handheld, barely steady. But in it, I stood at center stage under dull lighting. No mic, no music, just voice. Someone had recorded my whole performance, from the first shaky line to the final note. There was no title, no watermark. Just a caption. What they didn't hear the first time. No one laughed when it played in the homeroom. By the second period, it had over 200 shares. Taylor didn't make eye contact in the hallway. Elijah nodded at me like we'd spoken before. Even Miss Carver, the music teacher, offered an awkward half-smile as she passed me in the faculty corridor. No one apologized. But they were listening. At lunch, I sat by the window again. This time, no one sat next to me, but no one moved away either. That was enough. I found Ms. Renner after school. She was standing by the art room display case, swapping out last semester's student work for new pieces. She didn't say hello. Just handed me a sealed envelope. Cream-colored, embossed logo. Heavy stock. I opened it with trembling hands. "Congratulations," it read. "Your submission, Reconstruction, has been selected as a finalist for the Georgia Youth Portraiture Invitational. Your work will be exhibited at the State Gallery in Atlanta for public viewing and adjudication." There was more. Details about framing, dates, transportation, but I barely processed it. I looked up. Ms. Renner was already smiling. "They picked both," she said quietly. "Your mother's portrait. And the hands." My breath caught. "Really?" She nodded. "You're on the list, Ellen." Officially. I nodded too, though the air felt thinner somehow. Like the hallway wasn't used to carrying good news for people like me. As I walked past the library later, I noticed a new flyer pinned to the community board. A scan of the event program. And there it was. Ellen Drake. Dual feature, Reconstruction, and Memory in Graphite. My full name. Spelled right. No quotation marks, no cartoon animals. I didn't smile, but something inside me steadied. At home, the house was loud with Savannah's voice. She was FaceTiming someone in the kitchen, describing nail swatches and prom dress disasters. I stepped inside just as she gasped. "Oh my God, no way! Her mic actually died on stage?" I dropped my bag quietly and headed for the stairs. "Ellen," she called, spotting me. "Wait. Hang on." She covered the speaker with her hand. "So? You really got into that gallery thing?" I didn't stop walking. "You should thank me, you know," she continued. "I mean, technically, I got you there. If I hadn't signed you up..." I turned at the top step. "You didn't sign me up. You set me up." She blinked, the way someone does when their reflection suddenly talks back. "I just gave you a chance," she said, voice lighter now. "You took it. You're welcome." I didn't argue. I didn't need to. In my room, I cleared a space on the wall beside my closet. Took down the printout of the program with the chicken doodle and replaced it with the gallery invitation. Next to it, I taped a smaller note, something I wrote weeks ago but hadn't dared hang until now. They forgot me on the wall, but I remembered myself in graphite. The next few days passed in quiet motion. I submitted final edits of my sketches, answered emails from the exhibit coordinator. Ms. Renner helped me arrange framing. Meanwhile, word kept spreading. Some students started resharing the original video of me singing, this time without commentary. Others posted screenshots of the gallery flyer. At first, Savannah acted like it didn't matter. She brushed past me in the hallways, exaggerated yawns whenever someone mentioned art. But then I saw her in the media lab during 5th period, hovering near the digital design board. "What are you doing?" I asked, though I didn't expect an answer. "Making a promo post," she said. "For your show. Thought I'd tag you." I didn't respond. Visuals are important, Ellen. People don't connect unless it looks curated. I stared at her. "You erased me from our family wall." She froze, just for a second. "I was trying to protect the brand," she said. "No one wants to be sad. Sad isn't inspiring. Sad is honest," I replied. "Sad sings without filters." She didn't reply. She just clicked the screen off and walked out of the lab. The night before the exhibition, I couldn't sleep. I laid in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the house, the refrigerator below, the wind brushing against the windows. I opened my notebook and turned to the back page. Wrote one final line under the taped invitation. Tomorrow, they'll see what you tried to crop. And this time, it wasn't a warning. It was a promise. The National Gallery smelled like quiet and marble, the kind of silence that doesn't wait for applause, the kind that listens before it speaks. I stood just inside the main rotunda, notebook in hand, sleeves slightly creased from the morning's bus ride. There were people, real people, milling about in pressed clothes and purposeful footsteps. Some wore lanyards, some held programs. All of them walked like they belonged. I didn't feel out of place. I didn't feel anything at first. Just still. The exhibit director stepped to the mic and cleared her throat. Her voice echoed gently against the domed ceiling. For our next feature, we're proud to present a young artist whose work captured something often overlooked: quiet endurance. Please welcome Ellen Drake. My shoes clicked softly on the gallery floor as I approached. Two pieces hung on the far wall under muted spotlights. The first was Memory in Graphite. The portrait of Mom hunched over a table, eyes creased with fatigue, love folded into the lines around her mouth. The second, Reconstruction. A drawing of my own hands, mid-sketch, veins visible, one finger smudged. No face, just proof of presence. I heard murmurs ripple through the crowd. That's her? Isn't she the one from that video? I didn't flinch. I didn't speak. I stood there, still as my own graphite, while the gallery assistant read my artist's statement aloud. When they erased me from the frame, I didn't scream. I drew myself back in. A pause, then applause. Not loud, but real. Later, I drifted into the corridor outside the main exhibit. The floor was cold even through my flats. I passed a framed timeline of artists past, names I didn't recognize, faces in oil, in charcoal, in motion. I turned a corner and stopped. Savannah was there, leaning against a column near the gift shop. Hair curled, outfit pristine. She wore that same neutral lipstick she always called gallery beige. When our eyes met, she didn't look away. Nice crowd, she said. Looks like the chicken finally flew the coop. I didn't respond. She stepped closer. You know, you're trending again. People love an underdog, especially one who stays quiet until the finale. I tilted my head. You sound like you're jealous. I sound like I built your stage, she replied. And maybe I did. I let that hang. You built a trap, I said calmly. You didn't know I could walk through it. She opened her mouth, then closed it. The first time I'd seen her falter. Back inside, a reporter approached. Young, nervous. Can I ask a few questions for the student feature? I nodded. What do your pieces represent? They're about survival, I said. About what it looks like to keep showing up when no one wants to see you. He scribbled furiously, thanked me, and stepped aside. I stood near the edge of the room for a while, watching people come and go. No one asked for autographs. No one begged for selfies. But they looked. They read. Some stood longer than others, especially by the second piece. One girl, maybe 9, stared up at Reconstruction for a full 2 minutes before whispering something to her mom. I couldn't hear what. But her mom looked over at me and smiled. That was enough. By evening, the lights dimmed slightly for the evening preview reception. I stood by the window, watching the orange haze of traffic move like slow breath through the city. My reflection in the glass was half-shadowed but visible. Someone tapped my shoulder. I turned. It was Ms. Renner. I just wanted to say, she began. You reminded me what it means to make art that doesn't shout. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Thank you for not giving up on me, I said. She smiled. You gave them the truth. They heard it. After she left, I pulled my notebook from my bag. There was a page I'd saved for this moment. On it, I wrote, "They framed my work, but what really matters is that I framed myself." Then I tore off the page and tucked it behind the gallery program. That night, in the hotel room, I stood in front of the mirror for a long time. My dress wrinkled at the waist, my hair frizzed at the ends. But my eyes looked like they belonged. I didn't brush them away. I just turned off the light and slept. Not to escape, but because for the first time, I wasn't invisible anymore. I no longer have to stand behind the curtain or bow my head beneath laughter. I stepped into the light, not because anyone allowed it, but because I chose not to disappear. Today, I don't need to shout to be heard. My existence has been framed, whole and worthy. I've learned that when kindness is mocked and silence dismissed, standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's justice. Those who try to erase others from the picture will always have to face the truth that cannot be cropped out. Those who live honestly remain. What about you? Have you ever been overlooked? Pushed to the edge of a story you were meant to belong to? Share the moment you reclaimed your frame, because maybe your story will give someone else the strength to speak up.